case. And, you know, this is only one of the 150 language families in the Americas. There are a lot of interesting things in other language families, it's all yet to be worked out. It'll all come out in the wash. So when the critics say there's no language evidence for the Book of Mormon that has been accepted by the linguistic community, they are correct. There's nothing yet that has been accepted by the linguistic community, but that doesn't mean it's not there. The progress of Native American language generally is slow. It takes about 3 lifetimes to 5 to really get a language family figured out. Anyway, hey, let's take a few questions. This asks about other language families besides Uto-Aztecan. There are people who have claimed, for example, Swadesh claimed something for the Zapotecan languages. There's a handful of similarities with Hebrew, not enough that really anybody's paid attention to them. Another person has put together some similarities with Quechua in the south, and about half of those are really good and could be worked up according to the linguistic methodology, but that has not been done yet. And half of them are spurious and do not work so well. Others have claimed things for Plains Indians and Iroquois, so forth, and there are some. I've looked at those languages myself. In fact, the reason I focused on Uto-Aztecan because I looked at a few dozen language families before I focused on this one. There are some interesting things in some other language families, but none of them have been put together, written up, and presented to the convincing of the linguistic community. In fact, not even close. And so that has not been done yet. Let's see. You're assuming I can read small print. Let's see. Okay, this talks about the Uto-Aztecan language did not arrive in Mesoamerica until after 900 AD. Yeah, Aztec came quite late to where it is now. They claim to have come from the northwest of there, which interestingly is where all of the other Uto-Aztecan languages are. Not only that, but I think with time I might be able to figure out where they came from exactly by language comparisons and areas. But that doesn't mean, they didn't come from the south, go north, and they were survivors of the destruction of the Nephites and then came back southward while the others were northward. The homeland of the Uto-Aztecans is somewhere in northwest Mexico or southwest U.S. Yes, this talks about something, the Olmecs. Yes, the Olmecs are the archaeological entity in the Gulf of Mexico that very well might be Jaredite kinds of things, and that the Mixe-Zilcan language family is descended from the Olmec tradition or is associated with it somehow, and that's probably true. That's the linguists conclude, and I don't doubt it at all. And this is basically asking about Jaredite languages. Yes, and I am very interested in that matter, and I think a lot of American Indian languages are more Jaredite descendant than Lehigh. But that's about 3 more lifetimes of research. If anybody wants to become a linguist and dive into that, they're welcome. My life's 2/3 over, and I'm going to focus on as many language families with the Lehigh problem. But that's a very good question and an interesting matter to be looked into. I think I already answered this one. I selected Uto-Aztecan because it had more similarities than most others, as a brief glance at everything. We see in your examples words written in Uto. Do these languages have written form? Some of them do. Some of them are simply spoken languages that linguists record. Others have modern written forms, I should say. They borrowed the Roman alphabet just like we English speakers did. We borrowed the Roman alphabet to write English. The Romans borrowed the Greek alphabet to write Latin. The Greeks borrowed the Hebrew alphabet to write Greek. And the Hebrews and Phoenicians got a lot of their symbols and letters from the Egyptian alphabet, so English is reformed Egyptian too, okay? I'm sorry, I can't read that handwriting. Oh, this is a very good question, and I meant to touch upon it. There are a lot of word similarities. Are there any grammatical similarities? Yes, I have found a few, but not many. That's my focus for the next 10 years, or let's say 3 years, is to learn Egyptian better and find some grammatical similarities. There are a number, we mentioned a couple of them, but yes, that's with more research. I think we can identify, time and place of Egyptian, all that kind of thing. So that will be interesting, and mostly needs yet to be done. Have you made a comparison of Mesoamerican and Hebrew languages? Yes, I've looked at Mesoamerican languages. There's a couple of language families that I want to look into, but haven't had time to really do so yet. Otomanguean is interesting, and Hokan is interesting. Aztec being a dead language, how do we know how they sounded the vowels? Okay, Aztec is actually not a dead language. There are still 1 million speakers of Aztec in Mexico. Different dialects of it, descended from classical Nahuatl, but yeah, to be sure, one of the larger languages. Still 1 million speakers of the largest language in the United States is Navajo, about 200,000 speakers. Second largest, Cherokee, 50,000 or so. Others are less than 10,000, some less than 100. Some are dead already. But in Latin America, you have 1 million speakers of Aztec, 6 million speakers of Quechua, lots of languages flourishing there because they don't insist on public education where they have to learn Spanish like we do up here, where they have to learn English so they forget their Native American languages. But anyway, so I'm an English teacher and a linguist. I'm working against myself. But they pay English teachers more, so that's what I do for a living, and try to help Indian languages stay alive by not cramming the English too hard down into those brain cells so they don't forget their own language. Anyway. Oh yes, this is a good question. Is 600 to 700 similar words in Egyptian significant? Yes, because some language families, some language relationships are founded on 50 similarities or less. And so when you get 1,300 approximately for each group, that is significant. In fact, by the way, linguists would not accept a tripartite combination of relationship. Each one of those would have to stand on its own merit, and by the time it's all sifted and so forth, there very well probably will be enough for each one of those hypotheses to stand on its own merit. But hey, give us time.